So today's session, right, I'll be talking about a topic called identity orchestration. Okay, and then I'll try to use references, okay, from various topics from various books. Let me save this downloads. Okay, so that we don't. Okay, so today we'll be talking about identity orchestration. Okay, how many of you know about identity orchestration? Let's start from there. What have you heard? What have you
Is it
uh,
called any automation flow?
automation? Yes, one part of the orchestration. What is orchestra or what is orchestration? Let's start from there. What do you see in an orchestra? Some group of musicians. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it about creating and designing and creating, like if you go with the musician part, then it's about designing and creating a band. Whereas identity orchestration, we can term it in such a way that where we are planning what kind of access needs to be provisioned, what is the kind of access organization needs, whereas what kind of access levels will the employee be needing.
But then what is IAM doing? That is
Sorry?
what an IAM system does, right?
Yes.
How is orchestration different from an IAM system?
Uh,
What you just said is right. But also, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I guess then it might be about like there is already a set of accesses. Okay. Like how
Uh-huh.
do we plan? For example, we have kind of access like let's go by the basics. To be frank, I'm new. I'm the like this is my first class attending by you with you. Okay.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead. We can be
Uh,
wrong here. That's
yeah.
absolutely fine. Okay.
So we have set of access. So for example, we have a shared mailbox. We have Outlook access. We have login ID credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do we orchestrate? How do we design them, and how do we place them in a specific manner where an employee can log in and they can access the shared mailbox? But we design in such a way that whenever needed, for example, if the employee needs to send an email out from that shared mailbox, then they need to raise a specific set of send as access. Okay. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if you do not want to give them the access to send out emails, if we just want them to receive it and
Yes.
review it, then we can just say like set it on send on behalf. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This way we can term it as identity orchestration.
Okay. Anyone else?
Ravi, is it something like it is providing a low code, no code kind of workflow design option where we can select the flow as per our design requirement? Let's say start from provisioning to assign the multi-factor and yeah, end-to-end flow can be designed via automated tools.
Yes. That is that is identity orchestration, right? You
Yeah.
can design, but then what Pawan said was the use case. What you said is how orchestration work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually when you use orchestration, what Pawan said is the outcome of that.
Right.
Eventually, using these combination, you'll be able to achieve those outcomes. Okay. Anyone
Yeah.
else has any other idea about identity orchestration?
One another use case, maybe if correct me if I'm wrong, like let's say we have a different uh, identity system. Ultimate goal for us is to create a risk score based adaptive authentication system, like the develop some kind of ITDR where we can receive signals or integration from different type of source, like let's say Zscaler, we are getting the logs for network or the malicious site someone try to access, get those signal. Then from the identity solution, we will get risky user, risky sign in kind of events, combine everything into the SIM system,
Mm-hmm.
where we can manage the risk score. And then that risk score should trigger a API call to Microsoft, or let's say any solution where we can have some kind of uh, policy define, which can trigger an action, whether account should be asked for reset password, or ask for multi-factor authentication, or his existing session should be uh, refreshed or reset. Like so this is end-to-end flow where it starts from the collecting the different signal, uh, and then ultimate goal is to uh, set up a risk-based adaptive authentication.
Hmm. This is, but now when we talk about, so before I move into that, right, let me make a note of this. This is a really good pointer. Uh, but before we move into this, right, has everyone understood or at least got a high level? You can simply say no also. Okay, but can you put it on the chat? Has everyone understood what do we even 10% mean by identity orchestration? Yes, no. Put it on the chat. Okay, how many no's? Okay, so many no's, right? Let me um, start with this snippet that I have from one of the company. And here again, I'm not uh, trying to promote any organization. Okay, but what we'll do is, as a team, we'll try to learn what are the different orchestration companies are out there, major ones, right? And how they are solving different use cases. So by the end of the session, you should be able to know that there is something called as identity orchestration, which is not just which is complementing the general IAM world, okay, where a lot of things were done manual, but now it is also acting as a low code, no code solution. It is also acting as a way in which you can automate a lot of complex things. And as Pawan said, whether it is onboarding, authentication, authorization, various use cases, right? You can simply automate them. Okay. So with that, this is a copy for, I mean, I can just, you guys can just go and download it, but this is from Strata. Strata is one of the company on the identity orchestration. Okay. So let's start from here. The concept of orchestration, right? It is primarily, let's start from here. Identity orchestration is a new, simpler way to manage identity in distributed multi-vendor environments. In practice, it simplifies the management of identity, including on-premise, cloud, and hybrid, by constantly applying modern authentication and authorization policies across any platform. Okay, it is a software. Basically, it's a software. Let me start allowing. So it is a software which uses a layer, okay, or an identity fabric that allows consistent identity and access to web application regardless of whether they run it on-prem or on a cloud environment. Okay, I mean, don't worry, I'll just go on the drawing board and I'll try to explain this. Now, an identity fabric sits on top of your please, anyone who have recently joined can mute themselves. Okay, fine, thank you. So identity orchestration software allows a layer. Okay, let's say you have an existing, let me go back to the drawing board right away. Okay. Let me stop and Sorry, my laptop has been acting very weird. Let me. Okay. Going back to this. Let me see if people are joining in. Okay. So going back to this, right? Basically, it's a software where you have a layer, right? You have an abstraction layer or identity fabric. Now, if you look at this diagram, okay, this is your identity fabric. Now, what does your identity fabric contain? It has your on-prem, hybrid, multi-cloud, identity providers. Again, this is an ecosystem that you're already using. There is nothing new that you're doing. But one thing that orchestration does, and one of the really good use cases, let's say you have a lot of the time, right? You have scenarios where you have a legacy application and you want to migrate them across to the modern application. You need to kind of connect two systems, right? That is where it helps you to connect to your identity fabric. Now you have a multi-cloud, okay, or an on-prem and a cloud setup. So there also that is one of the use cases. That is more on the identity layer, okay. Now one of the common use cases, you want to automate the entire MFA solution. Let's say you have an organization and you want to kind of set up an MFA system. Okay. So what would you do in that? What are the top three things if I say that your organization needs to enforce MFA? What are the three things that you would do? Anyone, you can put it on the chat. Let's start from there. Because again, let's consider this, guys. Identity orchestration is not a tool that you go and learn. First of all, it's a concept, right? These are technology, okay? Now, using which you can complement your existing IAM system. That is one of the thing. And then automation, low code, no code, all of that is surrounding around this concept of identity orchestration. Okay. So now let's talk about a solution where an organization wants to implement an IAM solution. Sorry, MFA solution. What would be some of the scenarios that would come to your mind? You guys, I mean, please unmute. Okay, identify IDP type. Yes. So, Pawan, I'll just come back to your question. Let's discuss this. Okay. So yes, what is the first thing that you'd identify the IDP? Another? Anyone, guys? And we have 28 people, right? And this is a very basic question. Your organization wants to implement a MFA solution. What would you do? What type? Yes. What else? Main, yes. What is the second factor apart from password?
Single sign-on.
No. Again, we want to implement MFA only. Single sign-on is already there. When you are implementing MFA, okay, what are the things that you will consider in your mind? One is type of IDP, which you would integrate with. Then we have the different types of MFA. You have biometric, OTP, and then you have phishing resistant. What else? Cloud hybrid. Types of users, yes, very important. For whom are you doing this implementation? And I know there are a lot of people around, let's say Shubham, right? Shubham has been working in the organization, but he has also never tasted the other side of all of this, right? He's trying to mature himself as a consultant, as an individual. Okay. So around, for them, just understand these are the actual discussions you do when you work for projects like this. Let's say if you have been assigned with the task of implementing an MFA solution or implementing a single sign-on solution, right? So these are some of the things that you will be discussing on the organization level. And if you see the answers here, okay, for what organization you are implementing MFA? Is it an organization that requires to meet with standards like FedRAMP? So, Bhavin bhai, can you, I mean, if you can unmute yourself, can you just give maybe 2 minutes on FedRAMP? What is
Uh,
FedRAMP?
right. So
Yeah.
FedRAMP is a like a standard developed and enforced and required for the any US based government project. If your company is working on, they need to meet with, and your solution is built in cloud environment. So you have to there certain guideline which is provided by US Go, like especially for authentication and authorization, like when we take a decision for multi-factor or password configuration, like there is a guideline for NIST 863. uh, so if you go through that document, like there like government has created a certain rules uh, based on your project. Like let's say your company is dealing with a data which has arm related information, which is very highly critical and secured information, should not be break and should not be go outside of any US uh, and US region, let's say. So in that case, you will be fit into a certain layer. Like in FedRAMP, there are three layers: high, moderate, and low. So based on the product your company is selling to the US Gov, you need to follow the high, medium, or low recommendation from using a NIST guideline. And I can share some separate session, Ravi, in case we required. Uh, but yeah, for the authentication and authorization, NIST 863 is the document. I can put a link, which should be reviewed by, like, it's a good document to review.
Okay. So, what I mean by this, guys, is whenever you have been given a task of implementation, I believe, and I may be wrong here, but a lot of you work on the engineer level, right? Or a consultant level, or analyst level, or a support level. But moving forward, when you go up the ladder, and let's say not too up, but at least as a consultant, okay, these are expected when you go and talk to customers, or when you start thinking, like, what is, how can you automate, or how can you solve a customer's problem? And when you have solutions like this, identity orchestration, or a concept which uses your entire identity fabric and eventually allows consistent identity access to various applications. Now, this is where solutions add value. Okay, because right so far you were just doing um, SSO, MFA on a manual level. But when you go on a scale, or when you have complexity, some niche skill use cases, how would you solve them? Now, coming back to the to Pawan's question, low code, no code means, let's say you want to build uh, a website, okay, or a platform which would simply help users with password reset, okay, or which would help users with login. I mean, in a lot of organizations, they use custom pages, right? Login and all. Now, so far, what we have been doing as an organization is we were simply going in and doing some customization on the authentication layer by building a page or something like that. So that requires you to do coding. Okay. So, but now, if you see, a lot of the organizations have moved out of all these concepts, right? And now what they are saying is, yes, we want to build, we want to customize it, we want to add a lot of value by customizing the pages and all, but we don't want to do at the cost of hiring a developer or an entire development team. In that case, these low code, no code, right? That means a platform that offers you the same functionality as you would do when you're developing a solution, but where you have to either do no code, or the coding is very less. And we'll come into that when we would explore DaVinci, and then other platforms like Okta workflows. We will come into that. But that is what we mean by low code and no code. Okay. So here are some of the NIST guidelines. So when you start to build a platform, right, or when you start to build these use cases, these are the questions that you ask. Okay. Let me go back and read these questions. First, what is the type of MFA solution? What is the IDP? What is the second factor type? There are various types, whether you want to go passwordless. Okay. Now after this, and then you have identity proofing, whether you want to use identity proofing. Again, identity proofing itself is a concept, right? I would give you guys as a homework to go and figure it out. What is identity proofing? Another very important terminology. And one hint is a tool called ping verify falls under that category. So you can search. Okay. So once you start asking these questions, okay, what is the next thing you do when you start to build? Once you know that, okay, I'm going to use, let's say, Google Authenticator for MFA. We have 10,000 users in an organization. All of these are retail users all of these are employees. And then we have another 2,000 users who are external contractor, third party guys. Okay. Now, what would you do next when you know all of this? And let's say the IDP is any IDP, Okta, Ping, OneLogin, consider anything. What is the next step you do?
Okay, so like as you mentioned, like there will be external or contractor or employee type. We will define the persona, what type of how the provisioning will be done for this, and what type of multi-factor provided to each type of persona. Like for example, we have a IAM admin team. So as per the best practice, they should use a phishing resistant MFA, which is a device type like a UBCO type, where they don't have any dependency on network or any kind of software based multi-factor. They should be always available when and as required to deploy or recover system. Another thing is break glass solution. We need to make sure we have we define the break glass account in a worst case condition where system need to be restored. So those things, yeah, we as part of planning we have to do. For the contractor, we have to make sure like the system or IP range from where they are trying to access our system, whether it is a VDI or it is their personal laptop. Either we make sure those IP range are secured, or in case if they are trying to access from any outside from uh, their defined IP network range, then they should be asked for additional multi-factor or adaptive MFA. These are some of the ideas. Like, yeah.
And what after that?
After that, like, yeah, we have to figure out the process of implementation. Like first we need to do the POC, how we are going to integrate all these different tools, put it on paper, design. Once we're done with the design, then start identifying the tools which we will use to integrate. Like for example, SailPoint is our governance tool, how it is going to integrate with our IDP or directory service for provisioning and application onboarding. So what type of protocol we will use, like client credential based integration, or like we will use some other OAuth type, if SailPoint supports some better JWT based integration, or
no, this is now we are
so
talking
those
on the
decisions
MFA
we will
layer.
take and put a plan.
Okay. Sorry, Bhavin bhai. So this is more restricting
Okay,
ourselves
only
on
on
the MFA
MFA.
layer.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. On MFA layer, now that you know that, let's say we have identified the IDP, we have identified Google Authenticator. Okay. We know for whom this is going to be implemented. What is the next thing that you do immediately as a part of the POC? First of all, sorry, I mean, I know I have been doing this I have started this almost after 2 months, right? Because of the meetup and all. But I just wanted to know the audience. Does everyone know what a POC is? And you can unmute and talk also, please. Or you can put it on the chat. What is a POC? POC. Let's say. any proof of concept? Yes. Anyone else? What is a proof of concept? Except Bhavin Bhai, who has answered. But what do you guys think? What is a proof of concept? Yes. Practical scenarios and demos. Right? But why is it done? Why is POC done? Or proof of concept? So, guys, anyone who are new, learning, please speak up. Again, I really have, again, all of this session has been done for you guys only so that we can start building this community. This is a part of that, right? No one is charging you anything for that. So, you have got this opportunity to join this. So, please try to improve yourself, right? Like, what is a POC? When is it done? To check if the solution supports our use case or not. Yes. But when?
Define what kind of access will be provisioned.
Pawan, can you be a little loud?
Mm,
Your voice
I
is.
was saying
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
establish the security and to define what kind of access will be provisioned when, as well as when and till how long time duration.
Okay.
For
Let's
example,
completely
if the
remove.
user,
Mhm.
yeah,
So
sorry, go
let's
ahead.
remove the concept of. I mean, you're talking very on the after part. What you're saying is all the later thing, right? When we talk about POC, POC is proof of concept. When do you do a proof of concept? So the answer is to check the solution supports the use case or not. Why do you want to check that? Again, I mean, I'm going one by one. Why do you want to go and check the solution is feasible? Yeah, Shubham, to make sure if the solution is feasible. But why? What will happen if the solution is not feasible and you directly go and implement?
Cost factor,
Yes.
effort.
Nagarjun, attain security? No. We cannot scale. Could be cost factor, efforts. Yes. Not data loss, because data loss is the is could be one of the small factor. But what could go wrong if you implement a product by not doing a POC or a proof of concept?
Compliance failure.
Yes, there could be compliance failure.
It should be a business interruption, because if we are implementing anything without giving a test on the test environment,
Mhm.
then it will be disrupt the business, and maybe the higher level or the team who wants that to be implemented, they need everything to be streamlined, and it should not affect the present scenario or the present business with what we are implementing.
Yes, the objective. You had a certain
Yeah,
objective,
business goal.
the goal,
Yeah.
right? So the business goal, let's say, is to secure everyone with MFA. Everyone. Okay. That was the business goal. Now you Bhavin Bhai goes and says, let's do Google Authenticator or let's do SMS. Okay. And without POC, they agreed, they started installing. Then realized that in Europe, people don't want to share their phone number. Okay. Or in some parts, people are not bringing in a mobile phone in a specific uh, data center, let's say, high secured area. So now a POC is there to identify all the gaps and have a high level understanding of the use cases and all the use cases that we all just discussed, a type of IDP, users, location, and all of this. And when you do a POC establishes a fact that these were all the user personas, different conditions like browser and device type and users and all the tools that you just mentioned will work in synchronization when we put them together, and we'll be able to achieve the business goal that it was intended to be. That is why we do POC. Okay, is it clear? Anyone has any questions? Should I repeat? Is it clear what a POC is? Yes, no? People who did not
Yes.
understand, understood? Okay.
Yeah, yes, Ravi.
Okay. Fine. Naren, anything you want to say? Okay. Fine. So going back, when you do a POC, right? After the POC, what would you do? Now you want to implement. What will you do after the POC? You'll start uh, building something, right? In order to achieve, let's say, an MFA implementation use case. What is that something?
How we are going to deploy the solution? Like, is it infrastructure as a code, like using some
No,
kind
no,
of,
that is also decided.
okay.
But after that, what would you design? You'll design something to achieve the outcome, right? What is that something?
We need to deploy it on some sort of users which are not critical.
How?
And
How will you deploy? See, deploy means you click a button and it gets deployed. What is the process of creating that button?
By
we,
building a
by
bridge.
we need to build the infrastructure in a small scale.
That is done.
Hmm.
Your infra is ready. Your
Hmm.
users are ready. I've given you the MFA also. I've given you the IDP also. You have done integration. Okay. Now, what is that one thing that will stick all of this together?
A channel or a bridge?
What is that called in the IAM world? Let's see if I've got the answer. Not pipeline.
One more time, please. What?
Okay. So you have an IDP solution. Let's say you have Okta. Okay. And then you have all the users that you have onboarded inside Okta. Okay. You have integrated Okta with Google Authenticator also. Now, for you to make this work, let's say as a user, I log in, I get my username and password. After this, definitely if your goal was to set up MFA, right, then you know that your objective is achieved, right? So for all this to work together, what do you need?
A user registration for multi-factor?
A connector?
No, not user registration. Connector, but how do you connect? Connector is a word, right? But
Which we need to define that which protocol that we need to use, right?
protocol, we are out of the protocol. We are not in the SSO world. We are
Okay.
on the MFA world, right? Users, I mean, SSO integration has already happened. Now you have users. They'll put the username and password. Okay. What will trigger this MFA? Let me simplify this question. It's a very common, simple word. Connector, you're somewhere near to it, but
After verifying the
Policies.
sorry,
Policies.
who said
verifying the
that?
password.
I saw something.
Policy.
Policy, yes,
Yeah, Ravi.
right. So policy, Akshay, right? You said that is the
Yeah, Ravi.
gel, right? That connects. You have created
Means conditional
everything,
for conditional policies from
anything,
from,
anything, right?
let us suppose we have implemented the things and where the user is connected to my infra, right? That is a conditional policies and some policies that need to be built.
Eventually, policy, if you see, policies are the heart, right?
Yeah.
That joins everything together. Your users are somewhere, your IDP is somewhere, your devices are somewhere lying around. But who will tell them? You click number one, number two, number three, number four, number five. That is policy. Okay. Now, so far, what we were doing is all of the policies are manually built, and then you had to do multiple stitching and sieving and all of this, right? Now, when you go one layer up in terms of automating this entire thing, achieving complex integration of policies, right? Achieving or connecting legacy to modern solutions. This is where one terminology or technology comes into picture. Anyone wants to answer that? It's a very simple answer. Matured version of creating policies. What is that called? It's a 2-letter word.
Policy contract.
No. Just use the common sense, right? Just use it a little bit. A matured version of making all this policy run together in a very less effort wise, right? What is that word called? It's a 2 word, not policy configuration. No. Again, guys, don't shy away from answering wrong answers also. Workflow, yes, Shubham. That's why, I mean, this is what we have been discussing, right? Identity orchestration. So now if you go back in connecting the dots backward, right? What all we discussed? Let's read this. Now you know the use cases. Identity orchestration software, or let's go a little bit above. New, simpler way to manage identity in distributed multi-vendor environments. In practice, it simplifies the management of identity, including on-prem, cloud, hybrid, by constantly applying authentication, authorization policies across application or platform. So now, who said who do not understand identity orchestration? Is this a yes now? Shubham, can you explain identity orchestration now in 2 lines?
Yep. Like identity orchestration means like integrating various uh, uh, integrating the app to the users, like the final step, like what we do before we uh, onboard the users to the environment that we set up after the POC.
So your answer was very much exact to what we just discussed, right? And I can confidently say you just learned from this discussion only. Okay, anyone else? But nice try. And it is partly it is correct. Structuring needs to be set properly. Anyone else who wants to just talk about who said no earlier? I see a lot of people who said no. Let's say Akhil, Pallavi, mm, Nagarjun, right, and Akshay, Mahesh. Do you guys understand now what identity orchestration is? Can anyone talk about it? Even if it is wrong, it's fine, guys. I mean, we all are learning.
Yes. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is a
Akhil.
modern way of managing the workflows
Mm-hmm.
by integrating different IDP, different policies, different type of users together and using single dashboard kind of thing.
Yes. And the reason why it is called a low code, no code, because a lot of the time, drag and drop functionalities work, and we will discuss that a little bit more in detail. And you do not have to learn coding to, let's say, work with Strata, right? Or work with DaVinci, refresh, okay? Or work with Okta workflows, okay? So these are different tools that we'll be discussing as a part of our session, okay? Now, going back to some of the use cases that they are solving, okay? Now, definitely importance of IAM has significantly increased in the last decade. So all the breaches, compromised credentials, all of that are happening because of the human element. Okay. That's why IAM is the primary in the cybersecurity world as of now. Okay. So zero trust philosophy. And now again, I don't want to go in detail, but can anyone who's not experienced, I know a lot of folks are experienced here, but anyone who's not experienced and like has 4 or 5 years experience, can you tell me what zero trust is? Or have you heard about zero trust? Let's start with Shubham or Akhil or Mahesh.
Yeah, zero trust is just like trust no one, because we will. It's like always try to verify the user identity and then give the access based on that. So that's what the zero trust means.
Yes, very good. Next, anyone?
Yeah, hi Ravi.
Hi, Naren.
So zero trust is like trust nobody. Whenever you are login or trying to access anything, so system should verify the user. So with a different types of authentication mechanism.
Mhm.
But after authentication only, the user or the device should be allowed to access that particular resources.
Yes, it actually works on the principle, right, which says uh, it's basically. So let me go back to the chat.
Always verify and give the least privilege
Yes,
access.
least privilege access, and it should give access to the right resource at the right time for the right reason, and uh, so right time to the right user, right reason, and then there are two more. I just forgot. Anyone else? Anyone wants to add? I just forgot the 5 key
To
reasons.
the right resource.
Right resource. Then
Strong
one more.
authentication, continuous monitoring.
That is not a part of zero trust. Again, that is the post, right? With the right set of approval. So ideally, it is right resource. Okay, let me just write it. Right resource, right time, right approval, right reason, right user, and there is one more, right to the right user, the right reason, right resource, right time, and I think there is one more. I just forgot. If you can add it, okay. Eventually, making sure, right, that whoever you are giving access, everything is evaluated. That is the prime zero trust philosophy. Okay. Now, if you are building this MFA solution, okay, why this has come into picture is how do you know who the user is? Okay, you simply cannot say, right, if the user has put the username and password, then give them the MFA prompt. Right? There should be some reason, some way to validate the user. And now, when the user has logged in, how do you know that the user is not a hacker? So, for a specific period of time, when you are restricting the user access and give them only access as they need and revoke it immediately, this is also one of the prime philosophy, okay, of zero trust. Fine. Now, going back to some of the identity first security approach. So recently, Gartner, I hope every one of you know Gartner. Okay, Gartner released an article which initially it was more of a cloud first approach, right, for all the organizations. But now, moving forward, even Gartner is moving to identity first security approach. Okay, what does that mean is keeping identity at the center, and that's why you'll see, right, IAM is growing, and then a lot of IAM products are helping solve user issues, right, or challenges, and then a lot of companies investing because again there is an identity first strategy. Eventually, when there is a breach, the breach is happening on the identity layer, so identity has to be secured. Okay, now in this world of multiple scenarios growing each and every day, right? You need to be able to uplift and keep your policies intact. Okay. So, in order for you to do that, you need to change your policy every now and then, design some new policies, add new policies, remove old policies, right? That is where identity orchestration is also helping you. It not only connects the 6 A's but also elevates them, ensuring they work in harmony to improve security, user experience, and administrative efficiency. This one is the major thing from an admin perspective. When we sit and do maybe let's say a process or a workflow, right, or policies, uh, if you need to code and build a lot of things, the administrative efficiency decreases. Okay, but because you have these orchestration platforms nowadays, that is where it is, the efficiency is improving here. Eventually, yes, if you are able to have a better platform, you are improving the user experience, eventually achieving security use cases. Okay. So any other questions before we move further? Let me see if I have something on there is some benefits also or use cases also which we can go through. But any questions so far?
Ravi, one question. So this identity orchestration, it can be at any level, right? It can be a data layer also. For example, like you have a different source of directory service, uh, and you have a platform which allow you to create a like use a low code, no code type of option, and combine this different directory source, providing a single profile for MFA or for SSO. So that also considered as part of the orchestration tool,
Yes.
or like,
See, if you are here,
yeah.
if you see this, authentication, access control, authorization, attributes, administration and governance, auditing and reporting. So you're talking about the administration and governance part where you are trying to combine, I would say, two systems,
Right.
right? And eventually trying to achieve a converged setup where you eventually then use that as a true source and you have a combined system sitting there, right? Is that the right understanding?
Right,
Well,
exactly.
so over there, yes, you can do a mix and match. The outcome can be achieved, but then when you look this a little bit far from the outcome based, right? You can achieve any outcome, but then on here, it is basically integrating two systems and data between two systems. Definitely, those can be achieved. But again, that is where if you see, I'm not sure about DaVinci and Okta workflows, but Strata definitely helps you in those use cases also. Okay, so let's see this one. Okay, this is one use case. Let's discuss this use case. I think we just did. And again, for folks who are new, learning, and growing in the IAM space, always start thinking from a use case perspective. Today we just discussed, and we'll continue again further in further sessions also. Today we discussed about identity orchestration, and right now we are discussing the use cases. Okay, so whenever you learn a tool, always try to immediately add them back to what use case it is solving. Then your mindset, your vision will grow further, and you will then be able to talk in that terminologies. Okay, so real world app identity modernization. A Fortune 50 grocery retail chain faced significant challenge in modernizing 200 mission critical apps and retiring its legacy IDP. The retailer cloud security team needed to replace its UL on-prem single sign-on solution with Microsoft Entra ID, formerly Azure ID. The migration was projected to span several years and involve millions of dollars. But without this migration, the retailer risked losing access to many of its older but essential custom-built and non-standard applications. And this is a classic case, guys, where you are migrating because organizations are also maturing, right? When you think about organization maturing, what are they maturing? They're maturing their application base. They may be using some legacy application. Now they are moving towards a more standard ways of integrating it. These applications may not be supporting, let's say, SAML or OAuth or OpenID. Okay, but now they want to move away from them because these are business critical applications and they cannot live without them. Retailer deployed identity orchestration, migrating over 200 apps to the IDP without rewriting any code. With identity orchestration in place, the retailer looks to easily add MFA to the apps and has a secure way for developers to manage identity for cloud native apps that work with existing infrastructure. You guys now understand where identity orchestration comes into picture. It is again a fabric, right? Now, if you divide this into different layers, one of the things that identity orchestration did, or one piece, was to streamline a policy in such a way that users, the app onboarding got automated. One example. Okay. Second example is the policy was so clean that users started migrating instead of sitting and doing the first phase and second phase and third phase and taking years and years and years to kind of do all of this. Okay. So in that way, if you see, organizations are able to save a lot of time and effort, money, Okay. At the same time, they are able to achieve what was the expected outcome at a very faster rate with less effort on the administrative side, and with very much of um, a way in which they had kind of a safety net, that things were not going in the wrong direction. So any question in this scenario? But did you guys understood what we are trying to achieve with the identity orchestration space? And this is not for people who are like experienced only. Even now, if you go in your organization, there are so many changes that you are seeing, right? So many things that you can automate, and identity orchestration comes handy very much there. So learning tools like DaVinci, Okta workflows, right now, again, these are the ones that is widely used, is like a great addition to your skill, which helps you with interview preparations, which helps you with again expanding your knowledge within an organization. Okay, so make sure you know any one of the two, that is DaVinci or in your organization. If you're getting all of this right, just make your hands dirty. So any questions here on how identity orchestration is solving this use case? Yes, no?
So, Ravi, while this company was migrating to this new modern IDP, right? That's what I understand from the legacy IDP system, right?
Mhm.
So, how does that orchestration tool help them to migrate to the new IDP tools?
That is where they have built policies to connect to
Okay.
legacy
Mm-hmm.
and move them to the modern ones. Now, again, that's what this is, identity fabric. Now, there are layers and layers and layers on it. One layer could be migrating an application which was using, I'm just giving random example, uh, .NET, and they did not support SAML, and now they are moved into Ping, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
again they may not be supporting SAML. That's what it said, right? They may, but then Ping had as functionalities like let's say Ping access, right? Or where they were doing reverse proxy stuff and all of that. Okay, so
Yeah,
that
Okta have that OAG,
Okta is OAG.
access gateway.
Okay, so it is basically saying that things were achieved, but on in between, on the layer down below, there are multiple things that had to be done. Eventually, what you didn't do, you did not have to do all of them manually, right? You had clarity, and because of it was an automated process, you were able to ramp up things very fast compared to when it would take months and months and years. So
Okay,
I
and these
see
policies are written in any particular language or
orchestration platform supports a lot of coding.
okay.
Okay, so what are the popular leaders in the identity orchestration? Okta workflows, Ping DaVinci, Stata is definitely growing, but mostly widely used as of now is workflows and Ping DaVinci.
So if I not wrong, Ravi, like this solution can also help us to develop some kind of multi-cloud failover or multi IDP
Absolutely,
failover,
absolutely.
right? And also migration scenario, right? Like in case
Yes,
we
that is a
have
very
a
common use case.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good, good. You complete your question, Bhavin.
No, no, I was just checking like those two use case are also applicable using these tools.
Hmm. Yes. So if you see this right, in this case, you can look at how to put the modern authentication platform in front of legacy app without requiring code rewrites. Okay. Most greenfield apps built today are compatible with MFA and password. However, due to the support for modern identity protocols, however, older standard, okay,
Mhm.
apps cannot add modern strong authentication. It is why many organizations struggle. The challenge is modernizing legacy. On-prem apps with MFA typically involves manually recoding each one, which may not be feasible because of the budgets and IT team. Right now, the solution is making MFA and password work for legacy or homegrown can be done by coupling the apps from the IDP. With abstraction, the application remains on-prem while its identity solution becomes cloud-based. Now, here it is basically, if you see, right, a lot of the time as an organization, we always start to bring everyone in the same platform, or we start thinking about uh, structuring everyone in the same way. Let's say if it is a SAML based application, if the app does not understand SAML, the complexity goes, if yes, they are able to migrate, it's fine. But if they are not able to migrate, I've seen this always as a challenge, is they always sit and start rebuilding the application. Okay, because of which it takes a lot of time. Sometimes they want everyone to follow the same standard. But identity orchestration, what it does is, it says you remain who you are, I am who I am, let me come in between and bridge the gap between you two.
So it's
Simple. If
kind
you,
of application proxy. Can we say like so?
it is not, I mean, one part of it, as it is the identity fabric,
Right.
right? It is not a proxy. Let's say if you think about um, Ping DaVinci and Ping Access. Ping Access is a proxy. It will simply sit in front of the application and say, talk to me. I'll talk on behalf of the application. Okay. But here, identity orchestration is saying, you talk through me. Okay. I will talk here, but I'll talk to you also, and I'll also give you some benefit. Okay. And that is one part of it. There could be another piece that identity orchestration is doing. But if you think from a proxy perspective, they may not be able to do anything apart from being a proxy. They may not be able to give you a platform where you can do some coding, low code, no code. They may not be able to give you a platform where you can automate your policy, like you said, migrate, right? Or create a workflow where you can, let's say, mm, do continuous updating, right? Or anything where you're trying to automate. So it goes beyond that one component of it being proxy. Okay.
Yeah.
So next up is again talking about some of the other platforms, as this is a very non-biased platform, right? So Ping1 DaVinci is an orchestration platform, another that lets you create flows to guide users through IAM activities. A flow is a set of paths that define user journeys. Here it is more of user journey registration, authentication, and all of this. Okay. Now, if you see about some of the flows, how to create a flow, and this is available in the internet, guys. Okay. So you can see this is one flow: Google IDP, single MFA, single management, AWS, and here you can write true, false. See, this is how a policy looks like. Okay, and this is built on an orchestration platform. See, if it is false, give them SMS, and this is the same policy that you would build, right? You're automating this, and you can scale this up. Now let's go and start with some use cases. Okay, creating an authentication flow. See, this is one flow. Import from JSON. This is very tech focused. Okay, so that is why you have here connectors are there, core connectors, adding a connectors, dashboard. Here is how the dashboard would look like. Okay, so again, you have everything. You can just go and start learning on anyone who has a DaVinci license can start learning this. Okay, there are release notes and all. Now, another common one, as I was talking, is the workflows. Let's see which one opens up first. System has been crashing a lot. Stop. So now recording has started. So yes, these are cost. Definitely the cost will be there. So, but yes, there are values to this also. And see, whenever, because we have so many different scenarios, right? Whenever you talk in terms of adoption of technology, whenever technologies have been adopted by various industries uh, rapidly, okay, one thing that would you will see very much of coming on the surface are custom problems, because nothing is straightforward, right? Now, when you have tools that were built earlier, Those tools were built with the mind that okay, there will be few generic problems, 10 to 15, and we'll solve them. But as they start with, let's say, SaaS, you cannot break a SaaS product. On-prem, you can still break, customize, right? But now, cloud is the strategy moving forward. With cloud, you have the limitation of customization. What do? Platforms like this comes into picture. They should be built, right, to kind of bridge all the gaps, because there is so much issues, and I mean it's not equal. The infra is not equal, right? The environments are not equal. But how do you bridge the gap? That is where products like products, I mean identity orchestration products comes into picture.
Yep.
Okay. So again, going back to the Okta. So here is the Okta documentation. Again, you have some use cases around workflows. Okay, the workflow console. Let's see the console. Okay, see here. You have workflow apps. You have use cases. So provisioning, deprovisioning, sequence actions with logic and timing, send notification, right? This is a really good use case of notification. See, group push failure, sample one, sample two. So one thing, right, that this will do, guys, to all of you, it will, as I've been telling this multiple times, it will expand your thought process. What you will know. Let's say this is a problem. An ID administrator needs to be notified when a new user is added or removed from an app, when a user is suspended, or when a user performs a specific action. Very common problem statement. If you go and find these problem statement and tell to your leadership, right, how, I mean, we have these many problems. I'm not able to get notifications, or just read out all the problem statement that orchestration platforms are solving. Solution is workflow triggers a custom notification through email or chat as a result of a lifecycle event. So I'll tell you my thought process. First, when you think about this, the first is start from behind, okay, from the back. Think about an event, because before you are doing a notification, you need a notification should be triggered. How is a notification triggered? You need some sort of event, something to happen. When does that event happen? When someone performs something. Let's say a user adds a MFA device. Okay, that is an event. Is that event being captured on your logs? Check that first. Okay, what is the event ID? Establish that scenario that there is an event, something is happening, and because of which I am getting an event, or and which is getting captured on the log. Here is the event ID. Okay. Now, what will you do in case you receive that event? You want to notify whom? The customer. What do you need to perform a notification? You need a template. What should the message look like? Okay. And what do you need to inform? You need the user email address. So now you have three things. Event ID is there. If the event ID is there, I just need to send a notification. Here is the notification message. Pick up the email ID from the user profile, because the event will also have the user information. Club them and send the email notification. All of this you can club using a workflow. Does this make sense now? I mean, I just gave a very simple example. I didn't want to complicate anything. But does this sound or ring any bell? And did it give you clarity? Now, where workflows come into picture, or where orchestration comes into picture? Yes, no. Okay.
Yeah, Ravi. Ravi, I have like a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
So this orchestration always work in hand with IDP, or like independently also this orchestration platform can solve the use cases which IDP provider basically handles, like authentication, onboarding, application, or like this.
Individually also. But it has
Okay.
to be with some platform, right? Let's say you're solving an authentication problem.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot solve an authentication problem without Okta, let's say, or without an
Okay.
IDP,
Okay.
right? Because these guys are built. What you can
Right.
do is you can set up policies in such a way that it uses these IDP to perform authentication at a certain time for a certain user, for a specific resource, right? But you need something to perform. Let's say you cannot say that an identity orchestration tool will perform MFA without using a MFA tool. It can
Right.
facilitate, right? But you need a Google Authenticator to do MFA. Okay, but when
Yeah.
will the Google Authenticator be invoked? That is where your orchestration tool will help you.
Yes. So basically, like it gets a trigger from the IDP tool, and various use cases with the help of the trigger can be orchestrated on, and policy can be made in this kind of tools.
Yes.
Got it.
Any questions? We can stay for another 5 minutes.
So Ravi, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say if we think about ping dependency product, which is an orchestration product. So what it will do is it take a ping one risk solution, right, as a adaptive risk-based authentication solution. It integrate with this ping ID MFA. It integrate with some third-party risk management or GRC solution to take a signal from that solution, and all this integration ultimately deliver risk-based adaptive authentication flow, where signals are coming from the various system and integration is done by using ping dependency.
Yes, I'll tell you. Again, whatever you said is absolutely right. And to reiterate it, I can identify where the user is coming from. Sorry, how the users will authenticate. What happens if they put the username and password? Okay. Before that, how the evaluation is happening, and based on that, whether they'll get username, password plus MFA or just username and password. After that, an MFA could be, as you said, ping ID, and then I can land them in the application world. All of this can be orchestration using DaVinci.
Exactly. Yeah, I just ping a screenshot of one of the ping one risk authentication flow. So if we use that as a option, like a identify, like where in fields they mention different input in the diagram, like in chat I have put. So let's say IP location, right? IP range, yeah. So these details related to IP range, IP location, those are coming from the logs, if I'm not wrong. Third party feed we can consider where ping, where DaVinci can help us to integrate with, let's say, Brainwave GRC, which is providing me a risk score based on identity compliance. So I want to take a decision whether this user is supposed to be member of this group, and then he is trying to access the right application or not. For that, this integration required with Brainwave GRC tool, that integration, ping dependency can help me to get it done.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
And whole of this is one part of the ping one risk. I mean, we can again go deep dive later on the ping one risk, but ping one risk,
not ping one risk is like it is just for a reference, but the ultimate like what as you said, like ping dependency can help us to integrate like the feeds and input which we are looking for ping risk integration.
And ping DaVinci, ping risk can also be used separately. What you just said, right? All of this. This can also be achieved without DaVinci.
Okay.
That is also possible.
So
on
ping
the ping
risk can
policy
directly, so ping risk can be integrated with third party risk score solution without DaVinci.
Third party, no.
No.
But
So
in
that's
general, yeah,
that can be done by DaVinci, right? Because that DaVinci can provide an API interface where we can integrate with a third party risk score solution like Brainwave, as I mentioned.
Yes.
Right.
Again, multiple systems, right?
Anything which is supporting API based solution, like basically it can so it can feed the risk score from Entra ID or some other IDP, combine all those risk score and update the ping risk one policy. Based on that, decision can be taken whether user will be authenticated, deny, or challenge.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions? Fine, no questions. Thank you very much again. Let me stop the recording.